It's a common sense recap of the big stories. It's Katz and Cosby on 77 WABC.
Joining us now to talk about a whole bunch tied to the election and more is the great investigative journalist, founder of Just the News, John Solomon. John, great to have you here. You have some updates on these very woke DAs that many of them are going packing.
Oh, they are. They're woke. Now they're unemployed. A dozen district attorneys around the country that George Soros had backed and got into office were ousted either through elections or recalls. Several of them in California, the most famous, of course, George Gascon in Los Angeles County. But from Georgia to Florida to places all around the country, those who decided it's a good idea to take violent felons and put them back on the street, release them, often with no bail or low bail, they're paying a dear price politically. And I think it's another sign of just a bridge too far, that the George Soros agenda is just something that most middle Americans aren't ready to accept. And they saw the negative consequences from it because crime went up. And you look around and say, well, how does that criminal get back out in the street when he was just arrested last week or yesterday? And the answer is, well, that prosecutor put him out. And that came at a dear cost to those prosecutors.
I'll tell you, we have to bring our country back. I mean, with Trump being the new sheriff in town, I mean, we're going to bring our law enforcement back. Trump has respect for our law enforcement people. He's going to close the borders. He has respect for our veterans. Today, Veterans Day. He has respect for our armed forces. The previous administration, God helped us.
Yeah. There's another thing that's a great amount of respect, and I think you see it in the early appointments that Donald Trump has announced already, a respect for common sense. I mean, American people, at the end of the day, they have a common sense test, and when it gets violated, they feel uncomfortable about the direction of the company. That's what happened under Biden and Harris. But I think Donald Trump, these no-nonsense people that he's appointing, say, Lee Zeldin from the great state of New York, Tom Homan, Tom Homan's on 60 Minutes a week, are going like, do you have some way that you can keep children from being deported without their parents? And I'll just deport the whole family at one time. And it's such a common sense thing. 60 Minutes was trying to trip him up, and he just came back with this killer common sense question. I think common sense, get it done, no nonsense. That's what Americans want.
I should have patented the word common sense, because I think
yes,
it's the big one in town now.
Yeah, and President Trump uses it all the time too, John. I think he heard it from you.
Probably.
I think he did. You know what's interesting? You brought up the whole Tom Homan thing. There was a great, I wanted to spotlight it. It's interesting you bring that up, John, because in that 60 Minutes, the interviewer was saying to him, well, how much is it going to cost to deport these people? These convicted criminals we're talking about. We're talking about the people who have had murder and, and sex offenses. How much is it going to cost? And his answer was brilliant. He came back and he said, well, how much do you think it's cost America to bring them in?
Yeah.
I mean, what price do you pay for these people who've killed people?
And to keep them here, to feed them, to clothe them, to give them places to live, education, medical care.
Where you have the veterans in the streets with no money to eat, and the suicide rate on veterans is like 15 people a day.
Yeah, it's disgraceful.
It's disgraceful to give these migrants. I don't mind helping people from South America, Central America, Africa, but let's take care of the American people first. Let's take care of the veterans first.
Absolutely. Absolutely. John?
Listen, I think that's what the American people voted for. They saw this incongruency of inviting people and creating new need in the country before we resolved our own need. And I think when Tunnel to Towers had to get involved and help all those homeless veterans because the VA couldn't help them, God bless Tunnel to Towers. They're doing amazing things. They got 11 villages they're opening up now. But where was the government? Well, the government was busy taking new people into the country and giving them concierge service, not the people that fought on the front lines of our armed services. That's the sort of incongruity that I think going forward, Americans expect Donald Trump to fix and to fix quickly.
John Solomon, your opinion. The only states Kamala Harris won are the ones that require no voter ID. Is that a coincidence, or does it smell?
Well, listen, they're mostly Democrat states, right? So I guess, Democrats already don't want to do voter ID, right? So that's their ground. And I think at the end of the day, this debate over voter ID, over non-citizen voting, it's going to get settled, because if Republicans are going to have any chance of winning in 2026, the congressional election,
and if the non-citizens, If non-citizens, let sometimes, you never know. President Trump listens to this sometimes too.
Yes.
If it's non-citizens going to go out and try to vote, that's automatic deportation.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, listen, there's so many simple things that can be done quickly to solve these issues. And I think at the end of the day, Donald Trump is appointing people that are just going to get the common sense thing done and just not get all caught up in the book parties and in all of the debates and the talk shows. They don't care about the talk shows. You know what they care about? Getting the American people progress. And I think that what's interesting about the first group of people is they're all no-nonsense people.
Yeah, that sends a message, a big searing headline. Elise Stefanik, if she can grill some of the folks there in the UN like she grilled the colleges, that will be interesting. Judge Weinberg.
John, good talking to you. You know about that situation with FEMA where the official said don't go to the homes during the disaster, the hurricane, if they had Trump signs up? Have you ever heard anything more outrageous, abuse of authority? What do you think should be done about that?
Well, fortunately, we're told that person has been fired, which is at the very least what should have been done. You can make an argument maybe there ought to be some civil or criminal penalty for it as well. Listen, that's how far this country had gotten in its hatred for Donald Trump and for the silliness and the idea that you would use your government job where you're supposed to be sent to help people and you're discriminating who you're going to help based on their political affiliations. That's just insane. It's un-American. The fact that the person got fired is probably just a good starting point, but maybe not the end
point.
I
agree. I think there should be civil liability. I think there should be criminal prosecution.
To intentionally tell her subordinates if they have a Trump sign, don't help them with the hurricane.
And in their dire time of need. That's the point, too, John. You're right. Right. At the time when they've lost everything.
If people lost their homes and maybe even lost their lives because of that.
Yeah.
How outrageous.
I am outraged.
And I want to find out if there's more, too, because there may be more.
John Solomon, we got to take a break. Thank you so much for coming on. We love you, and keep fighting for America.
I shall, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Build up to Black Friday with savings all month long at Lowe's. Get up to 50% off select major appliances. Plus, take an additional 10% off when you buy select major appliances. And don't wait to pick up holiday inflatables under $20. Don't wait to save, in-store or online now, because Lowe's knows deals. Valid 11/6 through 12/4. Cannot be combined with additional discounts. See Lowe's.com for details and qualifying items while supplies last.